Clayton from Wichita, Kansas. What do you think are the top 3 matches of Scott Hall's career? I remember the list you did of Kevin Nash's best matches and thought it would fit alongside his outsider brethren. Well, I did do one for Nash. This was a few months ago. His top 3 matches. I guess it makes sense to do one for Scott Hall. Hall was the better worker of the two. I wouldn't say that he's got a long list of what I would consider to be great matches, but I didn't struggle too much when I got your question. I thought about it. It didn't take me very long to put a list together of more than 3 matches that I would consider to be among the best that Scott Hall ever had. And so this is my list. And again, my list may look different than your list if you're listening to this, but all 3 matches, all 3 I think of his best matches are Razor Ramon matches, and all 3 happen to involve Shawn Michaels, which goes to show you how great Shawn was. These are not ranked, but these are my top 3 for Scott Hall. It would be his WrestleMania 10 match, the ladder match with Shawn Michaels, which is, of course, it's a legendary match for a reason. It still holds up. I've watched that match recently, and, you know, even though it was the very first pay-per-view ladder match, we've seen a lot of far crazier spots done and innovative spots done in matches since then. Something as simple in that match as Shawn Michaels hurling the ladder halfway across the ring right into Scott Hall's lower back is still pretty damn brutal, I have to say, to go back and watch 25 years later. This is the 25-year anniversary, I believe, this year. I would include the tag team match from the October 30th, 1994 episode of Action Zone, where Razor teamed with the 1-2-3 Kid against Diesel and Shawn Michaels. I included that same list, or that same match rather, in the list I did for Nash. It's a great, great tag team match. And I would include the other ladder match, the SummerSlam 95 ladder match between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. And actually, I like that ladder match better than the one at WrestleMania. But I think those are his 3 best matches. Now, if you wanted to expand that out to a top 5, I would throw in the match he had on Raw in 93, I think October it was, of 93, with Rick Martel, which was for the vacant Intercontinental title. They had been in a Battle Royal the week before. They were the last 2 men standing. The following week, they had a singles match, and that was when Razor won the IC title for his first of 4 times in WWE. It was a pretty good match that those two had. And there was another match that he had with Shawn Michaels. There's that name again. This one was on Raw. It was a few weeks before his match with Diesel at SummerSlam 94. No title on the line, no gimmick, no ladder, none of that. Just a great 20-minute singles match between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. Michaels was easily Scott Hall's greatest opponent. There's not even a debate about that fact. Shawn Michaels was his greatest opponent. I would not have any WCW matches on this list. I just couldn't think of any that rose to the level of what I would call the best of Scott Hall. And I'm not saying he didn't have any good ones. He had some good ones in WCW, but none that were better than any of the ones I just mentioned. He had some memorable matches. He had some historic matches. The loss to the 1-2-3 Kid on Raw back in May of 93. The greatest upset win in Raw history. That is the match that put the 1-2-3 Kid on the map. And the Bash at the Beach match from 1996 with Nash and Scott Hall against Sting, Randy Savage, and Lex Luger, which led to Hulk Hogan coming out and turning heel and forming the NWO. So if we're talking about memorable matches, I think the match with the Kid and the Bash at the Beach match are 2 of the more famous matches in wrestling history, and Scott Hall was part of both those matches. I think if you're going to have a definitive body of work for Scott Hall, all of those matches need to be on that list.